Hi everyone, I'm Karen from the Peace Discipline channel, where you can learn more about nonviolent discipline. In today's video, we will be looking at 3 essential tools that have been found to protect children from harm. This video will mainly be relevant to parents. The tools we will be talking about can and should also be used by teachers or anyone else who works with or cares for children. As you might already know, the Peace Discipline approach is underpinned by systematic research on nonviolent discipline options, a process which took several years and culminated in a published paper which you can find on the Peace Discipline website. While busy with this research, looking for information on any discipline tool we could find, we noticed that public health researchers had been researching some of the same tools. These researchers look at public health problems like substance abuse, unwanted pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, risky driving, and other hazards to our well-being and safety. They want to find solutions to problems like these, which cost society billions each year. And so they ask interesting questions like, which children and adolescents don't end up abusing drugs and alcohol, having sex too young, or committing crimes? Although there are many teenagers who try these things, there are those who do not, or at least don't go overboard. Who are these children who stay safe? And more specifically, the researchers wanted to know, what do their parents do differently? So public health papers kept turning up in our literature searches, and it was super interesting to see what they said. It was especially interesting to see that different papers by different researchers looking at different problems in different parts of the world kept coming up with the same 3 protective factors. Here they are. Number 1, communication. Good, warm, open communication between child and parent has been found again and again to be a big protective factor. And here's the important piece, especially the kind of good, warm, open communication that encouraged child disclosure. In other words, the kind where the child feels safe to tell the parent anything. This is important because many parents think they're doing good communication. What they actually mean is that they're good at communicating to the child, telling them what to do and what's expected and so forth. But the part that's very important here is not that part, it's the other part. The part where the child gets to talk without being interrupted, set straight or told off. How do we get children to feel free to tell us stuff? With good listening. We need to give children a non-judgmental space where they can talk about anything they need to talk about. We do this by making space for the child to talk. We do this by holding back on our desire to fix their problem or give advice. We do this by asking open-ended questions and reflecting back what the child says to check if we're understanding them right. This is called active listening, and it's one of the most important tools in the Nonviolent Discipline Toolkit. What other protective factors did the researchers find? Number 2, parental monitoring and supervision. Parents of the children who didn't get into the bad stuff knew where their children were, how they were getting there, and when and how they were getting back. And they did not allow their children to go just anywhere. They made sure that when their children were not home, they were somewhere with adult supervision. These were the parents who preferred their children to visit other homes rather than hang out in unsupervised places such as parks and malls. These were the parents who called the house to check whether an adult would be there while their child was visiting. These were the parents who talked regularly to the parents of their children's friends. They may also have used technological options for parental monitoring, such as location sharing or apps which monitor internet usage. When we as parents do these things, we limit the opportunities for the bad stuff to happen. And what the research shows is that this actually really makes a big difference. So, like good communication, parental monitoring is a really important protective factor. But if we look closer at the research, we see something else that's really interesting. The same important ingredient that we saw in communication pops up again in research on parental monitoring: child disclosure. It turns out that one of the reasons these parents knew where their children were was because their children told them where they really were, not where they wanted them to think they were. So before you invest in the latest tracking technology, ask yourself, does your child feel safe to tell you where they are? And if something made them feel uncomfortable, would they feel safe to reach out to you for help? Because that may be a more important part of parental monitoring than any detective work on your part. How do we encourage child disclosure? Having a good connection with our children, making sure they feel safe with us, and listening well. Don't stop doing the other kinds of parental monitoring. They are very important, but research is showing us that we can make our parental monitoring even more effective by improving our communication skills, especially listening. Now let's look at the other protective factor. Number 3, rules. The parents of the children who didn't get into the bad stuff had rules and clearly communicated their disapproval of certain activities, such as having sex too young or smoking marijuana. Ask yourself, if your child were looking for the thrill of crossing the line, how far would they have to go to actually find that line? It turns out that the parents who had a clear line, for example, those that forbade the use of alcohol, had much better results than those that had the attitude that we're going to do it anyway and allowed underage children to drink. Some parents who allowed it thought they were teaching responsible drinking. The results of the research did not support this approach. The children of the parents who allowed it drank more irresponsibly, and were more likely to engage in problem drinking as adults. A young teacher shared that when she was a teenager, she and her friend both had good, warm, open communication with their mothers and felt they could tell them anything. But there was a big difference between the two in terms of rules. She knew which behaviors her mother disapproved of and how far was too far, while her friend's mother did not give this kind of guidance. Both teenagers were exposed to similar situations in their social group, but the friend went totally off the rails and ended up with a drug problem. She had a mother who listened to her like a friend, but what she actually needed was a parent. It was great that both girls had warm, open communication with their mothers, but it turned out that that was not enough. They also needed rules and monitoring. Here's another interesting thing that came out of the research. Parental monitoring and having rules actually help teenagers to deal with peer pressure. Adolescents with a higher level of parental monitoring also had a higher level of drinking refusal self-efficacy. In other words, they felt more able to say no. And having parents with strict rules was found to increase adolescent self-control. It seems children whose parents say no to things find it easier to say no themselves when they need to. These are great outcomes because one of the important goals of discipline is for the child eventually to develop self-discipline. So to sum up, what does public health research tell us about the children who don't get into crime, risky or premature sex, substance abuse, and other dangerous behaviors? Their parents do these 3 things. They listen well, nurturing good, warm, open communication with their children. They monitor and supervise, and they have clear rules. This was just a quick look at the main points, but if this interests you enough to look further, I've made a summary of everything we found in the research. You can find this on the Peace Discipline website under the Research tab. That's all for now. I'll be back soon with more on nonviolent discipline. Press like if you found this video helpful, and don't forget to subscribe. These videos are made to promote safer environments for children, so please share them with others who may find them helpful. Thanks for watching.